Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, a podcast created to allow a space for open, honest and vulnerable conversations with real people, all over a beautiful cup of coffee. We're here in my home, so I'll be providing the flat whites, and my guests, they'll be providing the insights. So grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. Francesca,
Hello. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good, yeah. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we've obviously just spent the afternoon together. It's been so great to catch up. We were saying, like, regardless of doing the podcast, which it's amazing for you to come on, but so we worked together for a while, short period of time.
Indeed.
Probably felt shorter because of the lockdowns and...
Time didn't exist in COVID.
Didn't exist,
It was not a thing.
No, we were just saying it. So it was 4 years, I think, since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
Which is scary in itself.
No.
But
4 years, no way.
No, but... So I kind of got to know you through work. Alongside that, you are an artist. But for those who don't know who you are, do you want to give like a quick, brief introduction to who you are?
Sure. I don't know whether to look at the camera. I'm going to look directly at the camera and freak everyone out. I'm Francesca. I'm a music artist. I make electro-pop music. Got 5 singles out if you want to go and listen to any of it. But yeah, started making music a couple of years ago, studied music at university, and that's like my love, my thing that I do. But I also have a 9-to-5 job, which is where I met Hans.
Yeah.
It's so good to be here.
No, it's incredible. We were saying, so I think your first single came out while we were working together. I think I remember, because you were, I don't know if it was your first single, but then you asked to go on BBC Introducing.
Yes.
Oxford.
Yes.
Which is obviously our local area, and so I think I remember seeing that, and that was the first time I was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, she's taking this music thing seriously. Like, obviously, because when your colleagues, sometimes you think, oh yeah, they've got a hobby for this and that.
Yeah.
And I remember being, not to embarrass you, I was like, I love your music. I'll just say it that way.
Thank
like
you.
I would listen to it if I knew you or not.
Yeah.
And I think, so yeah, well, obviously, when you're all tagged in this, I would really recommend people take a listen.
Thank you. Means a lot.
For yourself, when did you fall in love with music or songwriting or?
So it's a bit of a weird one. Like, I've been singing since I can remember. Since I could speak, I started singing, annoyingly, to my parents. And I always loved like singing and dancing at school. And, I was part of school choir and things like that. Started having piano and singing lessons from a pretty young age. But I had never written a song until, I don't know, 5 years ago. Okay. So I studied music at university. I did a vocals degree, so specialising in just singing, and always played keys. And my aim was to become a singing teacher. That was my initial goal, going to uni. And obviously to like learn more about music, but mainly that was kind of why I went. And then after university, I started falling out of love with music. And I fell in love with makeup artistry. So that was, I've always been like very creative, and I've always like loved makeup, but I really like just went headfirst into it. I was doing like content, I was doing YouTube videos, like makeup looks every single day. I was like hammering the content.
Okay.
Yeah, which I know you know how it is, trying
especially
to plug
when
away.
You're getting started.
Yeah.
I remember when I started Cappuccino, which is 5 years ago now, which is ridiculous for me to think about, because I think the person I am now and who I am and what place I'm in compared to when I started it is really nice sometimes to look back on. And I mean, obviously, like you say, with Instagram, there's reels and reels of photos and things, but every now and again I do scroll back and have a look at the space I was in or what I was posting, and I noticed maybe like the quality of the content's improved, but also my confidence and everything's improved. But no, certainly I see what you mean. When you're trying to get a channel going or you're trying to get out there, it's
hard.
It's hard, and it's hard knowing where the boundaries are if you want to push it, but at the same time, especially if you're doing it alongside a job, it's making sure you're not putting too much of yourself into it and it becomes a chore and it feels like another job rather than just a passion that you enjoy.
You want to have fun with it, and like with the makeup thing for me, like I was working on a makeup counter part-time. I was trying to finish my degree, and I was making all this content, which was a lot.
Yeah.
Doing all those things at once. And when I finished uni, it was this like weird, I was in this weird place of like, I've just done a degree in music, I've like graduated, but I like have no interest in music right now, but I have this other creative thing that I just adore. So I just threw myself into it. And I did that for a solid year and a bit, I think, as in daily content, you know, YouTube, everything else. And I really wanted to like be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to do content creation. Quickly realised it's really tough. It's really hard.
Yeah.
I was becoming very self-critical, and sadly, I just started to really compare myself to others. And also on top of that, like the makeup industry is it's not the best on your self-esteem. And I don't know, it was taking me to a bit of a weird place in my head.
Yeah.
So I kind of stepped back from that, and then I was like, okay, so where do I fit? I'm still a creative person at heart, but I don't have this creative thing right now. And I was working in retail at the time and was a bit lost, you know?
Yeah. I can very much relate to a feeling lost.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I feel humans need to feel like they have purpose, or they have some kind of thing they have to fulfill. And I was in this weird in-between phase of like, I don't really love makeup anymore, I don't really love music anymore, I don't just want to work in retail for the rest of my life. And it was my very first feeling of like that existential early 20s, oh my God, what's going on feeling.
Yeah, and I think people say, don't they, about your 20s quite a lot. And I think obviously now we're both like late 20s, shall we say?
Watch your mouth,
maybe I'm a bit older than yourself. I mean, I'm going to cling on to that because I'm 30 this summer, so I'm holding on to my 20s.
Best years of your life, as I said earlier.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so true, and I think nowadays with the younger generations, definitely there's less of this. I'm going to study for this, to do this job and be on this career path. Like even I notice it in work now. The slightly younger people. Like, I'm pretty sure the average time someone's in a job now is like 18 months.
Sure.
In terms of before like move in. Don't quote me on that. That's just from my sense check. Of it is about that time, whereas it used to be like, say, I think of my parents' generation. My mum was in the same company for 25 years, and that was just what she did.
It's definitely the age of the squiggly career.
Yes,
and
there isn't like a career, like there isn't a clear ladder anymore.
No.
It's more like as you say, it's just because people, which is nice because people aren't pigeonholing themselves into, well, I've done this degree, so that means I have to go and do this. I mean, yours was, as you said, you did the kind of vocals and then came out and realised at that time that wasn't the right time for you to maybe be pushing that day one. And then I had a chemistry degree and it was very much, and we were saying before we went live on that, I went to university, and from first year to, getting my PhD, or getting onto a PhD, sorry, I didn't get it. That's a very big part of my story. My life would be very different if it, but I'm grateful that happened when it did.
Of course.
But I was so single-minded that I didn't allow myself really to explore what those other options were. I created a story and a character for myself, and I think, as you say, that was maybe the first time that character kind of, you fell away from it, and you were like, I don't know who I am now.
Yeah, and this sounds so corny, but like what comes to mind as you were just saying that is that Natasha Bedingfield song, like the rest is still unwritten, you know? It's so true.
We're going to get music lyrics. How many lyrics are you going to get?
It's a great song, okay? It's a great song.
Yeah. But it is true.
Yeah, it's
staring at that blank page.
Exactly. Open up the dirty window,
Okay,
hands.
we're not going to carry on.
We're going to go through the whole song.
Yeah. We're going. You saying my windows are dirty? No,
sorry. But no, so it was a bit of a weird in-between phase. And then all of a sudden, and when I say all of a sudden, it was completely random. I sat down at my piano, did a bit of like jamming around and whatever. I was just pissing about essentially on my keyboard one day.
Yeah.
And I started writing a song. And I was like, I've literally, never felt the urge to do that before. Because even when I was studying music, I wanted to be a vocalist. I wanted to sing other people's stuff. I wanted to...
you wanted to...
maybe be in a function band or teach. You know, I had no desire to write.
Yeah.
I was very jealous of people who could do that and wanted to do that. Anyway, I started writing this song. I finished it really quickly. And I was like, is this rubbish or not? I had no idea. I knew that it just came out. It just happened.
Yeah.
So I went to one of my friends who is an amazing producer and songwriter, and he just does like everything, and he's so talented.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
George
someone.
Rose. Yeah.
Shout out, George.
I'm glad I got the name right. I think I remember because he produced.
Very good memory.
He helped. Just from when it came out, I think I remember.
Yeah.
You and him kind of. He helped you a lot on your journey to.
Yeah, he's produced.
Still going, but he's been a big part of your music career.
He really has. Yeah. He's produced all my music so far. Yeah. Everything that's out has been produced by him. So shout out, George. We love George. But anyway, I took this song to him and I was like, I need to know if this is like, if I'm barking up the wrong tree.
Yes.
Or if I can write. I'm not expecting for you to think this is the best song you've ever had. I just need to know if I have something here because I have no idea. And George was like, no, this is nice. Like, you should explore this. Like, maybe just write and see how you feel when you write and let it come. Don't put the judgment on it. Don't start to see it as something you need to build on yet. He was like, just let the songs come out. Let them happen. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm like writing songs like every day. Yeah. 2 songs a day. Like, it was crazy. It was like coming out of me. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of those songs have not seen the light of day. Yeah. But 2 of them that I wrote in that period are out. They're out now. It was If You Stay and Poison Boy. I wrote both of those in that time. And like, it just happened, which is weird. Yeah.
I think what's amazing there is that it is, maybe for you, it was just you being able to just be yourself. Like when you were writing, like you say, even the ones that didn't see the light of day, there would have been a purpose to them and they would have, it's just you, okay, maybe taking off that, but I'm not a writer, sorry. You know, it's like I say, we put labels on ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm the vocalist, I'm not the writer.
Telling yourself stories.
Yeah, telling yourself a story. And I think, so I've had a lot of people in just the spaces where I talk about mental health, or even people who've been on the podcast who talk about journaling. I don't know if that's something you do, but almost when you're writing lyrics, it's a way of maybe expressing how you're feeling as well. And 100%. I don't know how much of your songs are expressing feeling, or if they are just words. But I think with a lot of artists, it's the best songs will come from when you're genuinely feeling it, right? It's very hard to create emotions rather than just what you're feeling and putting it on a page kind of thing.
100%. And like, you hit the nail on the head. It's like journaling, and as corny as it sounds, it was like this trauma and stuff that I had not processed yet that was just coming out. And like, you know, again, it's not stuff that I would like maybe put out now, but at the time it was very cathartic. Like it needed to happen. And like, I found sometimes I would write something and I wouldn't show it to anybody. I would just sing it in my bedroom and maybe play around with it for a couple of weeks or whatever. But I would like sometimes like really cry afterwards because it was like this release. It was like this way of it coming out in a different form. And for me, like, I'm not one of these people, I don't shy away from talking about my emotions. No, I don't find it difficult. I'm very lucky like that. Yeah. But I didn't realise that even letting my emotions out in a different way would feel so cathartic.
It was like almost, maybe because there might have been a part of you that was like, but I talk about emotions, so I'm not holding on to anything. Yeah. I'm not one of these people who sits and just says I'm fine, but there's certain things that you can't let out, and that's why I think, and music is a perfect one, there's certain people, I've still got songs that I hear, and they take you to a moment, or take you to a person, or take you to a feeling, or like 100%. That. Like I had like Where Is the Love by Black Eyed Peas, like it was played at a funeral of someone when I was very young, and so when I hear it, immediately I'm taken to that moment.
100%.
So and for you, it's like even just hearing, or if you're producing that music yourself, it's just a way of, and people talk about being in like a flow state, don't they? So like when you're writing, or maybe singing, or just, in your words, pissing about at the piano.
Pissing about,
then but like in that moment, you're not, other stresses aren't.
No.
You can probably sit there and time just passes and you're like, oh wow, I've been here for much longer than you maybe thought you had been.
Yeah, and I sometimes look back on that time where I was exactly what you just said, like in this flow state. I was really trying to remove judgment from myself and really trying to remove this like expectation of like, right, I want this song to be like this, and this is my reference track, and this is the production I want, and blah, blah, blah. I was just writing. And now, because I'm a producer now and I'm trying to do everything for my music, from writing lyrics to chords to composition to production, doing everything. So like
the full package.
The full package. Yeah. I'll be writing a song, and before I've even written the second verse, I'm already like, okay, so what, I'm going to have this sound, I'm going to use this synth, I'm going to use, and I'm already running away with it, and it's really messed with my creative process. And I find
it's almost too much, because it's you can't just get back to that get the words down, get the bare bones down,
yeah,
bare bones down,
bare bones.
Yeah, sorry. See, this is why I don't write music. Can't get the words out, let alone sing them. But no, and then the creative, like the production, can come afterwards.
Yeah,
because the meaning is in the words. But I can see what you mean. I mean, obviously I work full time alongside doing all this cappuccino, then trying to think of posts, or then do my podcast stuff. And sometimes I'm the same. I'll be at work and there'll be a task I really need to do at work. Often it's the ones that don't require much thought.
Yeah.
The ones that, just an app in process, or you're just like getting through a task. Mm-hmm. And because my mind's so busy, or because I've got so much going on, I'm like, while I'm doing that, I'm thinking about who should I get on the podcast, or what am I going to do next, and
jumping ahead.
And rather than just so for me, trying to just stay focused is a big challenge for me. And I guess I say, especially normally people who are creative, often that comes from a busy mind, and that comes from all the ideas coming there. And something that we spoke about before we hit record, and I know you had put a post out on your Instagram, which I had a little look at, did my research, did my homework.
Did your pre-research?
Did my homework, but no, and you mentioned that 2023 was a year for you. Let's just put it that way. It was a year. It sounds like there was a lot, and one of the things that happened that year was the diagnosis of ADHD.
Yeah.
And so finding that out at in your, I'll say late 20s, I'm like 20s, we'll say 20s. But it was your year, not mine. So 2023. Yeah. How was that for Francesca?
It was a weird year. I have been living in London for 2.5 years now. And I moved to London with one thing in mind, not one thing, but one idea of how I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, it has been the opposite in so many ways.
Yeah.
Some amazing ways, like I moved to London and I was like, I'm sworn off man, I never ever want to date again. And I fell in love in the first few months and I'm still with him now. That's lovely. That's a great positive. That's awesome. Yeah. The rest of it, a lot of things got turned on their head. I had to deal with an awful lot of change. Yeah. And for somebody who, nobody likes change, right? I think most people hate change. But when you're somebody who's like predisposed to like an anxious mind, now looking back, a neurodivergent mind as well.
Yes.
It's change is so triggering and difficult, and it puts me in this really almost like childlike state where I feel so scared and like everything feels so much bigger than me. And everything for me basically last year just came to a head. And I was trying to like make the most of living in London and trying to like gig as much as I could, and like I'm trying to write and I'm trying to network and I'm also trying to do my 9-5 and I'm and I'm trying to keep a social life going, and I just started to feel like it was like getting on top of me, just getting way too much, as life does, but it was just really mounting up for me in a way that it just hasn't for me in my life yet. It was quite scary, and I'm very lucky that I have like such a good support network and very understanding work colleagues and like a great family and a great partner, and very, very grateful for those things, because I just feel like it was tough. But I just started to realize that I've been told my whole life, like you're anxious, you're this, you're that, and I started doing some reading up on ADHD in women, and I had no idea that ADHD in women can show up very differently to how it does with men. And the more I started to dig, the more my mind the cogs started to go in my head. And as we mentioned earlier, I was kind of scared to delve into it too much, because I was like, there's a lot of talk about neurodiversity now online, which is great, and we love the awareness, and I think it's awesome that more people are aware of it and talking about their experiences. But I was like, I don't know if I'm just taking this information and it's like influencing how...
No, I can see it, because it's a bit like, there's certain people that Google their symptoms and suddenly they've got...
I'm dying.
They've self-diagnosed themselves.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, you mentioned about that, and it was almost, there's been a lot of research done, and there's been a lot of, particularly I can think of women in my life who've had a later diagnosis of ADHD, and I think we recently, even at work, had training, someone come in, because working in football, we deal with a lot of coaches with volunteers, and they've got a lot of children in the club. And historically, if there was a child who was maybe struggling with eye contact or was a bit fidgety, didn't process the information, they might be seen as disruptive, or that they don't care, and sometimes coaches, like, maybe the kid then misses out. So that we had a presentation about autism and kind of, which I know isn't ADHD, but like similar, that kind of neurodiversity. And I thought that was really interesting, and something they did say though was about misconceptions about, you know, more men have autism than others, and it's just more because, as you said, the symptoms, the way that the men present is probably more what people would stereotypically think of as ADHD. So it means that there's a lot of like girls or women who maybe just think like, oh, that's not for me, and
or get misdiagnosed.
And I think the flip side, something that's alternative and have had lived experience within our family of, is almost like eating disorders, anorexia is often, there was definitely, 10, 15 years ago when I was growing up, it was girls have that.
Right.
Guys don't necessarily struggle with that as much.
Yeah.
There was something like, without going into too much, like, me and someone else in our family kind of were both in very, very similar boats. One of us was diagnosed, one wasn't, and it was purely because of gender.
Wow.
And that was quite, now looking back, quite damaging.
Very.
Because then you totally, and something we spoke about is the validation. So seeing and knowing that really we were in the same boat, and one of us being told,
you're valid.
yes, and one of them not, that was crazy.
Yeah. That's tough.
But no, yeah, so you mentioned for yourself, you were kind of, there was probably, as you say, maybe a bit of hesitation to even mention it, because you think, am I just getting caught up in this? Or
100%. And I was like really almost obsessively looking it up, because I was like, wait a minute. Like, for example, I would see a woman on TikTok with ADHD talking about her experience, or maybe she's had a bad day at work or whatever. She's doing like some kind of story time.
Yeah.
And she's had a meltdown, or she's had a really tough day, and she's upset somebody, or she's lashed out in some way. And I would like watch these videos and be like, oh my goodness. Okay. Am I sure that I'm just like a person who struggles with anxiety, or is there something else that makes my brain a little bit different and makes me process things differently or view things differently? And the more I started to dig, the more I was like, oh my gosh. And it almost became more daunting, because what I was hoping for was a diagnosis, which is to go and be assessed, an assessment. And it's what I got, and I was diagnosed from that, which is, I'm very lucky to have, had the resources to be able to do that, because the waiting lists on the NHS now are just insane, and paying to go private is also insane.
Something we almost said about, like, or I said about a bit about my experience.
Yes,
and don't have to go into the ins and outs of it on here. I kind of want this, I talk about myself enough on this podcast. I want to hear about your story, and people are here to listen to you, not me.
I want to hear you though.
But in terms of, I had a period of therapy recently. It was like 24 weeks, and it was a local hospital here, like in Oxford, and there was a few gates to get through to get to that bit. I was lucky, like similar to yourself. I've got good family, people around me, like my partner. She's been with me since we were 17. She was there before I knew what mental health was. She's been there at my highs and lows, and very, very grateful to her. But I wasn't necessarily, I don't think, at a crisis at the time, but I'd been through cycles of burnout my whole life. There's times when I was at camp when we were working together, and I might have had time off work. I remember having periods and struggling, and I always thought changing the job or changing the environment I was in was what was going to help, rather than looking internally.
Yeah.
And then I got to where I'm working now, and I work in the local FA, and I mean, I've loved football since I was small. It's a real passion of mine, alongside coffee. They're probably the two things I love most.
So up your street.
It's just right up my street.
You.
So I was like, then it was really difficult, because I was like, this is my perfect career, not career, but like field to be working in. I've got great people around me, my manager's great. Why am I still, and I had to then do the uncomfortable thing, which is question myself.
Yeah.
But anyway,
wants to do that.
No, exactly it is. It's that everyone wants there to be a reason, an easy way out, or something to be able to blame that's not accountability on themselves, and it's difficult, especially when you're not used to having to do that and reflecting. So that was, I was very lucky, and you mentioned there about the waiting lists or the cost, and it was only, my partner's a psychology teacher, it was only really afterwards I'd been through the therapy, she told me how much that potentially would cost if you were going private, or
Yeah.
to get that. And I'm pleased she didn't tell me
Yeah.
beforehand, because the nature of me, I would have put pressure on myself to then,
which is so
got to make
wrong
it work,
and
which is
sad.
wrong.
Yeah.
But it would have been. I'm definitely a people pleaser.
Right.
Less so
We're
now
unlearning.
than I was. We're unlearning, exactly. And it's interesting because there's a book I've just read. There's someone who did a workshop with us at work, actually. So Natalie Ruby May is her name. She's just written a book, and it's called Becoming You.
Okay.
And it talks about 3 things. So it's like unlearning, remembering, and becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that. You got to kind of, who were you before the world told you who you should be? It's kind of something that she says.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really
wonderful.
interesting.
I like that.
And so yeah, something I would recommend to maybe have a read.
Yeah.
But anyone as well. And yeah, it's those stories we create about ourselves. And for mine, it was, I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to be a PhD. I'm going to get a PhD. I'm going to be a doctor. When actually, now that I am not doing that line of work, I don't keep up on the latest science research. So it shows that it wasn't a passion. It was just short term. It was what was giving me validation.
Sure.
But no, so had the diagnosis, obviously, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting how you mentioned that almost you feel your creativity took a bit of a hit in 2023. And this might be me even showing a bit of naivety. I feel I'm quite red on this topic, but often people associate ADHD with creatives in terms of, because your brain's so busy and that. But then I think you mentioned about, because you're doing everything, like the production as well, it takes you away from focus.
Yeah.
But so is there anything you've done differently in your creative process since the diagnosis?
Yeah, so that was like one of the big drivers for me getting a diagnosis, was because I just felt, and I feel like this applies to all mental health issues, struggles.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The feeling like you're not in control of the train, and the train is driving you rather than you driving it, is so scary. And depending on what that impacts, obviously, it's different for everybody. But for me, it was work, my day job, trying to get things finished, and really being terrified of becoming that person who doesn't finish things.
Yeah.
And that also applied to my music. I started to become this person that I have got so many unfinished songs.
Unfinished projects.
Projects. And there's this thing that happens it's really common amongst people with, neurodiverse people, but particularly I know with ADHD people, that you shame spiral. So let's say I do half a song one night. A few days later, I'm like, I'd really like to revisit this. My brain immediately puts a barrier in front of that, because I start to feel like this shame that I haven't finished this task. And instead of just like facing it head on and being like, I'm going to finish it, I'm going to avoid it. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with this pile of unfinished songs. And that's what happened last year. I wrote 50 half songs, nothing to show for it. And I was so ashamed of it. And that was what eventually one of the main drivers for me to get the diagnosis. And literally in the past 6 weeks or so, I've been talking to a lot of my creative friends, particularly my creative friends who are also ADHD, about their process and how to untangle again. As in, when I'm sitting and writing lyrics at the keyboard, I don't want to be thinking about synth sounds. I want to finish one thing at a time, and I don't want to bounce around and then end up with this knot of ideas that I can't unpick.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine said to me, you need to take it back to basics, and you do not get off that keyboard until you finish the song.
Yeah.
Then you think about other things, and you do the step-by-step of your composition and your production. But peel yourself away from the computer, sit at your keyboard, go back to your roots. And that's what I've been doing the past, 6 weeks or so.
So there's less distraction almost.
Yeah.
You can't be thinking of doing all the digital stuff.
No,
So
I'm not allowing
I'm not
myself
very,
to.
not very
No,
technical
you're
in song
fine.
production.
You're fine.
I just about produced this podcast. So I do it all myself, but
doing a great job.
But still learning, But just trying to really, and then in that way you actually, again, we go back, talk about that flow state again, and you'll enjoy it more, because rather than thinking, or maybe I can imagine, because I've had it before, if I'm doing like a task and I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do to it next, the quality will be less in what you're doing, because you're not fully into it, but
you're
also
taking yourself out
you're not
of it.
enjoying it anymore, because you're like, I need to get this done so that I can do this. But thank you. Thanks, Francesca, for talking about that, sharing that. And as I say, there'll be a lot of people, I think, listening who can relate to that, whatever industry you're in. And just talking about that driving the train. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
You want to feel like you're, again, literally it's the same thing, I'm just going to reword it, but like you're the pilot of your own kind of life. That's what everyone says, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or you're the author on that blank page that Natasha's telling us about in the song. So,
exactly.
Yeah, you don't...
Natasha Bedingfield.
Yeah, just like that.
But there's another analogy which I find really, it really rings true for me with my ADHD and my family members who also have ADHD. I can't remember which psychologist came up with this, but it's like the human, the chimp, and the computer. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, his surname's Peters, but I can't think of his first name. But he talks about the chimp paradox.
So interesting. Yeah. And I think for me, at least, with my ADHD, I see my ADHD as a chimp. And when the chimp is in charge, it's chaos in your brain, or when your output, or your, I don't know, social life, or whatever and it's...
Because it often reacts very much on emotions, and it's very like...
Yeah, and it's a really interesting paradox that I encourage everyone to look up. It's very... Because you could apply it to anything. You could apply it to addiction. You could apply it to depression. You could apply it to lots of different things.
I think a big one as well, relationships, communication.
Oh, massive.
Obviously, I was even saying to you, we've been with my partner a long time now.
Yeah.
But even we were saying it, kind of trying to remember, go back to just enjoy... Like you said, you should never stop dating the person you're with. But again, it goes down to those communication things. And in a relationship, I might come home from work after a long day. She might do. We're busy people. If it's stressful. Like this week just gone is a perfect example. We both had weeks where,
just a lot.
Just a lot happened, basically.
Yeah.
And to top it off, we got a takeaway on Thursday night. And I opened a fortune cookie packet and there was no cookie in it.
Oh.
And then she opened her cookie and the cookie was there but no fortune.
Two.
I know, and we were like, this week, there's some bad juju going around. That's what we said.
Bad juju.
We were like, this week was just...
Oh,
anyway.
no,
But we
sorry
could laugh
to
about
hear.
it. And it was nice, though, because we literally both belly laughed at it. Because we were like, come on. And it kind of put things in perspective when we were just like, we can still... We're very lucky we're here, having a takeaway in our house, and, you know, in the grand scheme of things, we're all right. But just...
Grounds you again.
Yeah, but knowing that, say, sometimes she would come in and she really likes to talk about her day. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm not necessarily the same in terms of if I've had a stressful day at work, I want to just sit.
Okay.
If my partner's had a stressful day at work, I think she wants someone to talk it through and express it. And maybe her being a teacher, she doesn't get as much time with colleagues as I do.
Okay.
And I've started to learn that, though. She might be in front of a class, have a really stressful lesson, and have to go straight to the next one. Whereas if I have a stressful call or interview or a meeting, I'll grab someone for a coffee.
Sure. She doesn't have that outlet.
So it's for me to kind of but in terms of, for me, just remembering that, my chimp would say, leave me alone. I've had a busy day. I just want to have some quiet time. But actually understand where she's coming from and things. So
people need different things when they're going through tough, if they've had a tough day or whatever. Some people need to, reflect and, have alone time. And it's also about not taking it personally, which is, I've definitely relate to that. Everyone's needs are so different. And I think as well, as you get older and wiser, you kind of can identify what your needs are after a bad day or whatever.
Start to, that's why they say self-awareness is so important. If you understand yourself, what helps me feel relaxed, or what is making me feel stressed, and what is... Because sometimes, as you say, you get caught up in these cycles, and when you're so busy, then you don't actually have time to properly, track it. And that's why I know some people journal, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
As you said about maybe song lyrics. For me, cappuccino is, I often say it, but it's like an online journal for me.
Yeah, I definitely get that vibe.
If I had a bad day, I think just yesterday I posted one about, after this week, it'd been a week, and just something about, the loneliest people are the kindest, the saddest people are the brightest, and just because, and I can relate to and there's a Robin Williams quote as well, about something like the people who've been through the most, are often the kindest, because they don't want anyone to feel the way they have. And I think actually I can relate to that a lot. And not I don't know if it doesn't sound arrogant. I don't want to big myself up, but I would say I relate to that in that that's why I'll always be the one to, see how someone's doing, or I genuinely care about people. And I know you said as well, you're an empath, you would say.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. We don't want to just not get too much. No tears. No tears. But yeah, and so I can, but then it's just remembering, and it's those barriers for yourself that unfortunately not everyone's wired the same way, but unfortunately some people maybe want to take advantage of people who are willing to do that, and it's just knowing who to share your energy with and who not to.
Yeah.
And that's what I've got to learn. So boundaries.
Exactly. Boundaries. 100%.
So so it's good. But yeah, it's been nice to chat.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to ask me while you're on?
Oh.
I'm mixing it up. I haven't often. I don't know.
I do actually have a question for you. What is your
favourite Francesca song? No.
I would love
Forgotten.
to ask that just about. Thank you so much.
Forgotten is my
favourite as well.
Yeah. But I love all my songs.
You're very sweet, Hand. What is your ideal coffee date? Anywhere in the world, you could just pick a location.
Yeah.
And the coffee that you would have as
The
well.
coffee I would have.
Yeah.
Well, the coffee I would have is the self-care, but now I'm joking.
Of course, this one.
No, so coffee date. Well, my partner doesn't drink coffee, so do I get to choose who I'm going on the date with as well? No, I'm joking.
Okay, coffee and tea date.
I was saying our relationship's going great until she watches it. No, so coffee date. And I'm not just saying this because there's some Italian in you, but it would be Italy.
Okay.
Like Rome, maybe.
Gorgeous.
Or like Lake Garda. Yeah, somewhere like that. So
by the water.
Somewhere in Italy, yeah. Or in Italy, and actually it's interesting because I would tend to drink. So this is like kind of a pour over coffee that we're having now. This is from Collie Coffee, who's been on. So thank you, Ollie, for the coffee.
It's beautiful, amazing coffee.
But I actually like when I'm in Europe or on the continent when they have just an espresso.
Yeah.
And like a glass of water. I'd have an espresso and a sparkling water, and like a nice like pastry, and just sat out, and in the courts, like these squares you get in Europe, and you can just people watch.
Gorgeous.
And you see, because like some people they're in their working day, they come in, have an espresso, some people just laughing and joking, and even if you don't understand the language, when you can see people, like facial expressions, and you see people's like joy and stuff, and you probably be telling me it would be all the nonnas, is that you say?
All the nonnas in Italy drinking their little like espressos.
Yeah, so that would be mine in like Italy or France, like on the continent.
Gorgeous.
In a nice square, just people watching.
I'm there with you. I'm on a plastic chair. I'm in the middle of like northern
someone's
Italy.
Playing like a little violin in the background and.
Perfect. I'm there with you. I'm on that coffee date with you.
So that'd be my perfect one. And I still have to try. I've never had mocha pot coffee, which we were talking about, is something that you telling me I need to.
Call yourself a coffee head. It is the best way to drink espresso, I feel. It's a bit fiddly. It's a bit annoying, having to.
It's not one to do in the morning before work, maybe.
Well, once you get used to it,
yes.
Like you could do the night before, you could put the water in.
That's a lot of preparation.
But it's, I think, worth it. The reward it's worth it. It's just the best. And I feel like, please correct me if I get this terminology wrong, but I feel like because it's like brewing it for that little bit longer, like pulls the flavours out, and it's just the best, in my opinion.
I'll have to try it though.
Yeah,
100%.
you should.
I'll have to try it. I'll make sure. But yeah, so what's 2024 got in store for you? So, yeah.
Yeah. So I've basically, as I said, got my diagnosis. I had that in October. And I've kind of gone through this little acceptance phase. And now I'm like in this like surrendering phase, which sounds really extreme. But I've basically surrendered to the fact that I want to iron out my creative process again. I want to go back to my roots. I want to learn. I want to absorb knowledge as much as I can. And I'm not going to be focusing on my output as much, at least for the next like 6 months or so. I just want to absorb as much knowledge as I can. So I've gone back to piano lessons for the first time in a really, 14 years, which has been really lovely, just to go back to my student, student brain, and just like be curious and learn and make mistakes. And it's been really cathartic in a way to just allow myself to do that. So definitely just my era of learning. That's like my biggest thing. I would love to put out some music this year, but I haven't put the pressure on it because until I have something that I know is like my best work and the best I can do with my newfound knowledge, I don't want it to see the world. I want to feel so proud of it. So who knows? Maybe new music. I'm writing a lot, which is cool. But whether I put stuff out, I'm not sure. I just want to learn. That's my biggest thing this year.
I love that. It's amazing. And there is something so nice about learning and giving yourself time. And we talk about self-care, self-respect a lot. That's a perfect example of it that maybe people wouldn't think of that. It's because you're saying, no, this is time for me to do something for me. And when you're at those lessons, or if you're writing, and whether it sees the light of day or not, you're almost going back to loop back to when you said that you wrote that first song and you showed it to George, and it was, you know, you were just writing, and it was just felt natural, and it just felt like the right time.
It just fell out.
Yeah, exactly. And and it almost, like you say, I love the fact you're saying it doesn't matter too much for you. You say what sees the light of like the world, it's for you. And that's, you know, you've got to be enjoying it, enjoying the process, and falling back in love with music and creativity.
100%. Yeah.
Which is, no, it's amazing to hear.
It feels good to like take that pressure off as well, of just the outcome. It's really nice.
Yeah. But what I would say as well, as say like a friend, someone who's worked with you, like whether you were doing the music or not, like, you know, that's not all your worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just important to remember that, and that's not me saying that to you. I'm sure that you already like know that, but again, just for people, like, because we get caught up in this, you know, looking for validation and looking for, well, you know, I am what I do, but actually it's who you are, and just what you do is just something else.
Yeah.
And so I would say, like, whether like songs get released or not, it doesn't mean you're not going to be like the amazing person you are, who's like, you know, brings a lot to people's lives, whether that's music or not. So I would just say, with that, like, not having pressure on it, and
Thank you.
And I think even things you said today, I think will be really like, people will really appreciate hearing you talk about that. And I know a lot of people in my life who it's becoming more of a conversation. Yeah. The kind of neurodiversity and
and it should be.
It should be, because there's actually it's. I mean, I don't know the numbers. I don't want to put a number on it because I don't know it. But like, I feel like across. So obviously, I know, like, it's kind of, people talk about the 1 in 4 with like anxiety, depression, etc. And then you've got ADHD or something. Like, it's not even really a minority of people, I don't think, anymore.
No.
Like we just, you know, people, especially in Britain, we like to be that, you know, stiff upper lip. We're okay. We don't want to talk about all that. But,
get on with it. Yeah.
But why not?
Why not?
Why don't you want to talk about it? And you're only going to be, you know, the more you're keeping things in, it's just that stress and that, you know, you can't just enjoy what we're doing. So.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think I encourage anybody, especially my fellow like females out there, like, if you feel that you're showing symptoms of something that you like want to delve into and maybe like explore a diagnosis, please don't shame yourself. Don't tell yourself, oh, I've seen something on TikTok and I like, maybe don't start gaslighting yourself, because that's what I did, and I spent a really long time beating myself up. And I could have gone into that assessment and come out the other side and they'd been like, oh, no, we don't think you're neurodivergent, you know, and that's fine too. But I was right. So just don't beat yourself up for it. And just, I think there's a lot more research and a lot more information out there now about how it shows itself on, like, in women, because it is very different. So definitely encourage anybody who is like curious to just read up on it. And there's a book I can highly recommend. It's called ADHD A to Z by Rhiannon. Oh gosh, I can't remember her surname, but it's a fantastic book. It changed my life, and I highly recommend everybody reads it. It's really good. And
I love that. No, thank you for saying that.
Of course.
Look, we've both given a book recommendation.
Yeah,
as well,
there you go.
There we go. Maybe I'm gonna have to start making this for the next series, because this is the final interview of this series. You're closing out series 2.
End of an era.
End of an era. Yeah.
How do you feel? How
do I feel?
Yeah.
Proud, to be honest. And we're not always the best at saying that. I'm certainly not always the best at doing it. When I think of the conversations I've had and the fact I've allowed myself to be vulnerable, just to even have these conversations, whether they were being recorded and whether they were going out or not, for me, the most thing I'm proud of is just having them. And it's the feedback I've had, or just the conversations and people saying, like, thank you for giving me a space to say that. So I had someone come on, Christian, it was the first episode of the series, so we can loop it back nicely. And he, so he's a football manager at a local club, very young one, he's only 27, so another late 20s, only 27, but I think he might be 28 now, but not important. But he's the manager of a football club, but being in a football environment, and he had been struggling since he was 17 with a gambling addiction.
Right.
And
yes, I watched
that. Got to a point where, like, he was like gambling the home, etc. But he only in the last year really started talking about it, and my podcast, and it sounds silly to say it was an exclusive, I don't like that, but it was him, it was the first time he went public with it.
Right.
And so for me, to think someone's felt that they
you're
trust
safe.
me to give them a space.
Yeah.
And so that's amazing. And I've had people, like one of the guests say, oh, is it not a bit intrusive? People are coming in your house. And I hadn't even considered that.
No.
But I can see why some people might think, I want to keep this separate. But I want people to feel comfortable. I want it to just be a conversation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
It definitely feels that way, by the way.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah. I made her say that. No, I'm
being paid to say that.
Yeah. But no, it's, proud. And actually, when I think of, I don't know the impact it's going to have on people. I don't know if people are going to watch it and think that'll encourage them to talk to someone or share it. And to me, it doesn't matter. It's proud of it.
Good.
Yeah.
You should be.
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
awesome.
amazing. Considering where I was, and we mentioned like why 22 is my favourite number. When I was 22, I didn't want to be here anymore. I put it, I think people will be able to get what I mean from that. And that was before even I'd met you and been part of the team. But I think what's interesting is, and I don't know, you might be able to say on this, I don't think many people, maybe it's okay, unless I spoke on Cappuccino, like I try to always be, it's the people who are smiling, it's the people who are high energy, it's the people who are trying to be, positive. So I think that's why I would just encourage everyone as well, just be kind. Like, you never know what someone's going through.
Yeah.
Like, you really never know what people are going through. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do want to just ask you one question to finish.
Of course. Hit me.
Yeah. What does happiness mean to you?
Oh, happiness. It's weird. For me, I feel like it's probably changed over the years. Now, currently, happiness would mean stillness of mind or some kind of inner peace, I think, and feeling fulfilled with what you have now. Not in 5 years, not when you have X, not when you buy X, not when you're with X. It's having that stillness of being like, right now, I'm happy with everything I have and I'm grateful for it, and being present with that. That's what I feel like happiness is. Right now, could change. It could be, in a few weeks it could be, when I get £1 million, that's what happiness is. It could change.
I know what you mean there.
Yeah.
It's that inner peace. Yeah, mine is peace of mind, I think. That's kind of, for me.
Yeah.
There's calm is the word I associate with happiness, because there's rare moments I catch myself in calm, and sometimes I think I self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Because I used to really struggle with calm and stillness. I would see it as being stagnant,
right,
and not moving forward.
Right.
But sometimes, be grateful that you can just be calm and live and just enjoy the moments. So
completely agree.
Thanks, Francesca.
Of course. Thank you so much for having
I really
me.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
And,
thanks for the coffee.
That's all right. No worries. No.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation. I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can like and subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching or listening on, but also if you head over to Instagram and give me a follow at Cappuccino. This is the best place to contact me, but also see the latest developments on the platform as we look to increase awareness of mental health through my passions for coffee and football. In addition, if you've heard something that you can relate to or you want to talk about a little bit more, feel free to message me on that platform. But also, if you fancy coming on yourself and having a conversation, then do let me know, because I'm always keen to connect with new people and get insights into other areas and other passions and other challenges that I might have no experience of myself. Thanks again, and I really hope you tune in for the next episode. Take care of yourselves. I've been Hans. Thank you.